Hi, everyone. Welcome to Hack the Orb. I'm Rowland Graus, product manager at Agoric, and I will be hosting the events today, taking you through various presentations and giving you breadcrumbs along the way. I'm also your primary point of contact if you want to reach out during the hackathon. You can find me on Discord or send me an email. And as a quick note, we have presentations scheduled back-to-back today, but we'll be having short breaks in between each one to let you get up, go to the restroom, get some water, and take a quick break. Those probably won't be more than 5 minutes. Today, we are starting with our co-founder and CEO, Dean Tribble, who should be materializing on your screens now. And Dean, I'm gonna let you take it from here.
Excellent. Well, hello, I am Dean Tribble, as he said, and I'm just really excited to be here. I'm really happy that you're all here. We're delighted to be collaborating with Chainlink in order to both put on this hackathon and be able to roll out to the market some of the features that you'll be seeing shortly. So now, Agoric was founded by pioneers in the space of smart contracts. Sergey got smartcontract.com. Smart contracts are clearly a very important element in what you'll see here and in what we all think we're doing in the blockchain world. But what is a smart contract? What have you done? That's a question that I often ask, but it's important to start there because it colors a lot of what we'll see throughout the day and throughout the hackathon. So to us, and there are many people that may have other variations on this, but for the last literally decades, it's been a contract-like arrangement expressed in code where the behavior of the program enforces the terms of the contract. And this idea, this concept of smart contract predates blockchain, right? You've probably used many smart contracts you didn't realize if you bought something through eBay, where a trusted third party that took a big slice out of the middle had software that was running that orchestrated your cooperation between buyer and seller. Now, so smart contracts are upwards of $1 trillion market cap across Airbnb and Uber and Lyft and most recently the grocery delivery services. But when brought with blockchain, they solve additional challenges that are what make them so exciting. So what does blockchain bring, right? Well, the gold standard of blockchain is multiple independent computers in different administrative zones, in different jurisdictions, all voting to agree on data, order or choices of events. Did I pay Alice or did I pay Bob? And the results of computation. How much did I pay and did a fee get taken out and what was the interest and all the kinds of things that we would like to be able to rely on a system to do. But by having machines that operate this way in these multiple jurisdictions, you end up having an assurance of execution that you simply can never get from a trusted third party. And so what it brings you is computing with integrity. And that means that you can deploy a contract that is the particular orchestration you would like between you and a third party across the internet that you've never met. And the contract will enforce the terms of agreement with a strength and assurance that no third party can meet. And that's what enables DeFi to happen, where I can now deploy atomic swaps and do a trade with someone and have an assurance that I will get the asset that I wanted in exchange for the payment that I provided. I can do portfolio management. I can do all these use cases without having someone in the middle, behind the scenes, in a position to do bad things to my money or your assets. But the next ingredient that we all need on top of that is connection to the real world. Blockchain has been in this nice isolated space, growing functionality to be able to enable cooperation between individuals across the Web3. But without that connection to the real world, its scale was limited. And so Chainlink helped bring that connection in, where you've got oracles that can provide price data. That's the obvious one. That's what everyone sees. And it's crucial and important to the kinds of things we'll be doing in this hackathon. But it also can detect or control things like transfer of the custody of a package, or monitoring weather conditions, or reporting on the outcome of elections if one had one. Those kinds of things are crucial to being able to tie the safe and secure execution on a blockchain to the real world that we all want to live in. And so all of those come together with a goal here towards accelerating DeFi. DeFi is that initial successful product market fit for blockchain, because blockchain uniquely enables that ability to enforce all kinds of cooperation and all kinds of financial activity between partners without having anyone in the middle that gets to manipulate it, change it, steal from it, etc. At least as long as you're running on a secure platform, right? And so what Agoric brings to that, my quote from Mark Miller, our chief scientist, is safe composition of reusable components. Reusable components being DeFi Legos. You've heard that term. It might be atomic swap. It might be a bank account. It might be an AMM. I'll go into more detail at a later presentation today. But that safe composition is what will enable us to rapidly produce new work out of old work. 15 years ago, right, experts could do some interesting things in JavaScript with some web pages, and it was pretty good. In modern days, a beginner in a couple of months can do a far superior application with more responsiveness, higher security, flashy graphics, and all that sort of thing, because they got to build on the shoulders of those prior developers, right? They got to, in React, for example, or Vue, or any of several user interface frameworks, they got to be able to use existing components by grabbing them off the shelf from NPM and putting them together into their application without changing them, without copying the code like you get the source code remixing that happens in Ethereum right now, that sometimes leads to glory and sometimes leads to horrible security failures. No. In most applications now, they use those components unchanged and are able to build larger and more sophisticated, fancier, more responsive applications because they don't have to build it all from scratch. Now, the DeFi community is starting to be aware of that composability as being crucial, but it's still in the world of source code remixing that we had in the 80s. Right? And what we want to get to, and what Agoric brings to that table, is the ability to make components and combine them in our case, the world's most popular programming language, secure version of JavaScript, right? But be able to combine them to build richer and more sophisticated applications. But as in my previous slide, that's not enough. And so there's one of my favorite little catchphrases that when we were talking to Sergey, it came up. And now, smartcontract.com has been around for quite some time, and we've seen each other's literatures. Well, back in 2018, when Agoric, the company, started out to leverage a bunch of the technology that we've all brought together and built over many years before we got here, we met Sergey and realized how much shared vision we had with him and with the larger Chainlink ecosystem. And so we were very excited to be able to tie this together. But when we started looking at doing this earlier this year, as we got to our alpha and we were ready to then take our package of being able to build smart contracts rapidly and tie it to the real world, he had this phrase. And so our collaboration, which was announced and many of you are familiar with, our collaboration is about rolling out the Agoric public chain next year, 2021, with that rapid ability to produce smart contracts, to produce richer dApps and applications, richer DeFi, and really accelerate innovation in the way that again, Ruby on Rails or React or any of these things accelerated innovation and accelerated adoption by not just thousands or tens of thousands of developers, but literally millions of developers. We want to roll that out where you have all that extensibility in an information-rich environment. And so this collaboration is why take our model and wire it together with those rich information sources, with the rich touch out in reality that Chainlink and the extended community of Chainlink has built and is maintaining and growing over time. And so we're really excited to have Chainlink and many of the Chainlink community here to participate in this hackathon and both learn about Agoric and teach us about Chainlink and teach us about connecting to the real world. And so there will be, well, I'll go into presentations in a moment. So you're here at a hackathon The goal is to build dApps and reusable smart contract components on Agoric's layer 1 economy, right? On the new economy that we're building, the new blockchain plus DeFi components integrated all throughout the stack, and you'll hear more about that later on. But build those dApps to be early adopters, early applications, early reusable components for the mainnet that will come out next year. And work with us on the way to beta, testnets, on out in Q1 to start rolling these things out. And for winning teams, there are, of course, both sponsorships, but also long-term mentorship, if appropriate, from Agoric, from Chainlink, and from some of the other folks that are here at the hackathon with us. So we're very excited to see what everyone can build. The prizes, there's $10,000 in prizes now in combination of USD and Link. There are several categories, and Rowland will go into much more detail. But, key thing is, DeFi that uses Chainlink, right? DeFi that it doesn't live in isolation, but connects and leverages the real world. Or just dApps that use Chainlink, because I'm very excited personally about not just the ones that are using a financial price, a price and a financial oracle, but ones that are using oracles that are about sensing the real world. So an insurance contract that will automatically trigger based on weather reports, or those kinds of things. And the exciting thing, again, about having a large community is it's incentivized to grow and spread and cover all these rich additional use cases as the crypto ecosystem grows. Best integration enhancement, that would be working on the Chainlink integration layer to add more kinds of oracles, more kinds of participation, better integration of price feeds and so forth. We have a great integration that we built together with Chainlink available and as plugin components now that again I'll talk about later on at a presentation later today. But that's one of those things where it's a reusable component. You can come up with new and different ways to extend it, plug it together, grow it, add other things, additional aggregations, all those kinds of things. We're excited to see what you can do there. Best user experience, if we're talking to the real world and we're talking to the real world about people's money, wow, they really care about getting user experience. It's really important that they know where their money is, that they can get it back, what's going on with their money, what's going on with their assets, all that kind of thing. And then finally, make sure you stick around at the end, because one of the things we want is what was the most exciting to you. So the developers that work on projects will be able to vote on what one do they think deserves the Developer's Choice Award. So those will all be judged, except for that last one, by our panel of judges. Zucky Munyon, a all-around blockchain expert and instrumental in the Cosmos ecosystem, and runs a validator there, and is very familiar with the Agoric architecture and the amazing opportunity of composable DeFi on top of Agoric. Miko Matsumura of Gumi Ventures, Lauren Stephenson of Pantera Capital, Bak Kim of Hashed, and finally Keenan Olsen of Chainlink. And I know many of you are very familiar with him. And he knows the kinds of things that people out there are able to do, and can hold you to that critical standard of using real world data from Chainlink Oracle. So we're very excited about what these people will be able to see, observe, report, and share about your applications, and award prizes appropriately. We also have several hack partners. Now these are groups that came in and joined us. Oh, and Lemniscap also is here. Apologies, this didn't get updated. So we welcome the people that joined us from those communities. They have developers, they have portfolio companies that need the kind of technology that combined Agoric and Chainlink can bring them, and they have use cases that they are more than happy to talk about. So if you need support in the area of getting an investor perspective, a business perspective, outside perspective on use case, advice on how you might build a business about this later, or etc., keep an eye out for these people, and by all means pull them into conversation, get their help on your DApp, or your project, etc. They're brilliant. They've got a lot of valuable insight, and we're delighted to have them aboard, and we're delighted to have the extended community of teams that they've connected with working on this combined platform here. So the hackathon will run starting today. Ready, set, go. No, wait a couple hours. Check out a couple of the talks. There will, however, for this first week, there will be 6 days of workshops and presentations. The full agenda has them, and you'll see several of them, both introductory, like the introduction to DeFi in general, that it follows my talk. Some of them will dive very deep into, here's how call spreads work, and then here's the code implementing that in Agoric and how it interfaces to an Oracle. Right, and so look at the spectrum of talks and workshops available. A lot of them will help with your projects. A lot of them will perhaps inspire some additional extensions to your projects, etc. We will have daily office hours, and we're very excited to provide any mentorship that's useful to help you make your project succeed. And so finally, and Rowland will have an entire session on this, but team formation will be happening on Discord and in a later event today that Rowland will talk about. Tech support will happen on Discord, in the chat down below, or in various pages about this. You can see the link to join Discord. Please join it if you haven't. As teams form, we will be adding team-specific channels, so you have a place to both be able to easily collaborate with people and reach out to both Agoric support and Chainlink support, depending on which area your interest and concern is. It'll just make it slightly easier for people to jump on it and respond to you quickly. Okay, and then so finally, before I leave it off to Rowland, I will point out that the next thing is going. Well, no, he'll introduce our speakers. I'm very excited about our next speakers. So. Thank you very much.
Thanks a bunch, Dean. And as Dean mentioned, I'll pull up the schedule now and talk a little bit more about what we're going to be doing for the rest of the day. And Dean, we'll see you in about, half an hour, something like that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
All right. So the rest of the day, we have a few hours of presentations for you. The first is going to be in about 13 minutes. Patrick Collins and Keenan Olsen are going to be giving an introduction to decentralized finance. So they are members of the Chainlink team. Many of you know them already. So really looking forward to that. And then after that, Dean will come back with a presentation that he alluded to on specifically what we're doing with DeFi Legos and how the Agoric system may implement them. And then Patrick comes back with an overview of Chainlink, so the value of Chainlink oracles, going into a little bit more detail there. And then at 6 o'clock UTC time, 1 o'clock Eastern, and 10 a.m. West Coast time, we have a fireside chat with Sergey Nazarov and Mark Miller, our chief scientist. Really excited about that presentation, and make sure that you come for that. And then finally, I will be going into some more detail about prizes and logistics and team formation for the rest of the hackathon. So not a required presentation, but it definitely is helpful if you want to understand how to use some of our tools, how to interact with us on Discord, and how to think about the prizes and how they may relate to the projects that you're building. So with that, we'll take a quick break, and we will be back halfway through the hour for the next presentation. Thanks, everyone. All right, welcome back, everyone. So to start us off today with our first in our series of presentations after Dean, we've got Keenan Olsen, Community Manager from Chainlink, to give an introduction to decentralized finance. So I'm going to bring Keenan in here and let him take it from there.
Hi, everyone. Cool, thanks, Rowland. All right, well, coming after Dean is definitely a challenge, but really want to thank the Agoric team, Vanessa, Santi, Rowland, Dean, everyone there who's helping put this hackathon on. We're really excited about this, and it's really cool to see more applications being built with Chainlink on different blockchains. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real fast. I really want to make this presentation very engaging. So if you guys have questions throughout, definitely drop them into the chat. There's a Q&A section at the end that we'll be able to get to. The goal of this presentation is to really introduce JavaScript developers into, what is this world of decentralized finance and why is it so excited? Why am I so excited about this future of finance? A little bit about like the agenda. What we'll be doing is kind of going over just a generalized, what is the smart contract connectivity problem? Where does Chainlink fit in for this whole problem that we are trying to solve going forward? We'll get into, what was centralized finance and traditional finance, and then what is this whole thing, decentralized finance, that people call DeFi. And then we'll go into how Chainlink supports the growth of this DeFi ecosystem on many different chains, including Agoric. And then we'll open it up for a Q&A. And again, if you have questions, definitely just drop them in the chat, and then we'll get to them at the question and answer part. So where does Chainlink fit in for this whole decentralized financed era that we are going into? So smart contracts themselves, they have a fundamental issue. Data is not able to get onto the chain. Smart contracts are deterministic, and so they need some way to put data onto these chains, and that's exactly where Chainlink fits in. So whether it be Agoric, whether it be Cosmos, whether it be Ethereum, we need to have data onto the chain so that we can take smart contracts to the next level. So what? Yeah.
Keenan, apologies. Do you mind hitting present on your slide?
Yes.
You're sharing your full screen right now. All right. Great. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for catching that. Yeah. So ultimately, the Oracle problem for smart contracts. You have all this very cool data from the New York Stock Exchange, whether it be different events and data, IoT sensors, and then you have, on the other side of things, how do things, get paid out to traditional financial applications? So Chainlink fits right in the middle of this and is able to connect your data to smart contracts to make them more valuable. Previously, if we go back a few years, we tried to tokenize everything with Ethereum. Ethereum was very, very great at this and allowed developers to, be able to tokenize different assets. And now we're coming to a point where we can create real world events based upon smart contracts. So we can take things from just pure tokenization to real events, which is what we'll get into here in a few seconds. And I won't go too deep into everything Chainlink, as Patrick will be presenting about this later this afternoon. But again, if you have questions, definitely drop them into the Q&A. So Chainlink allows you to connect your smart contracts to critical external data, whether that be, bank payments through external adapters, or whether that be, weather data, so that you can create smart contract insurance platforms. You can widely accept bank payments. Chainlink provides external adapters, so you can connect to any API that there is out there, and combine this with critical functionality so that you can connect it to any sort of blockchain, whether that be Ethereum, Agoric, Bitcoin, Hyperledger, and so forth. So just a little bit, why Chainlink and why is Chainlink so important out of this world of oracles? Chainlink is very decentralized. That is our key focus. If you just use just a regular API, or maybe any sort of just like exchange on its own, that's a single point of failure. A single point of failure, and your whole smart contract is at risk. Someone could just take a flash loan, move the price of something up, and then now your whole contract is, destroyed, and people lose millions and millions of dollars. And so that's why decentralizing this is very, very important. So we take data from multiple sources. Different oracles take that data, send it onto the chain, and then you're able to get what the data is. So next, what we're going to be going into is, what is DeFi? What is it? What is this whole thing? So in the old world, and when cryptocurrency was just getting started, you'd hear this thing, centralized finance or traditional finance. You could think of this, as Chase or Wells Fargo or any of your bank accounts that you might use anywhere around the world. This is, traditional banking. Then you have stuff with cryptocurrencies that is controlled by a single entity. You can think of this something like Coinbase, where you can go onto this service, they provide a service, but the keys are not in your hands. The keys are in the multi-sig of Coinbase, and they control those funds where you can buy and sell and trade different cryptocurrencies. You could also think of this as Binance. Being able to just trade and be able to do long, shorts, and different things on their platform. So what is decentralized finance? Decentralized finance kind of takes us to a whole nother level where, everything is built on chain. And these are examples of Ethereum applications. But what is so cool about this hackathon is you have the opportunity to be able to create the next generation of these applications for Agoric. And so there's tons and tons of opportunity. And now's the perfect time to dive directly into this. So you have stuff like synthetic assets. You can think of this as, how do I get the price of gold onto a smart contract so that, futures traders can trade for the price of gold in these real world assets. You can think of it as lending and borrowing. Aave is a great example of this, where, you can put up a little bit of collateral and then be able to take a loan off of that collateral. And so these are opportunities that you can build during this hackathon that can be extremely, extremely popular in a very short amount of time. And you can do it all with JavaScript, and that is the great thing about Agoric. You can also create trading platforms. You can think of these as like futures, longs, shorts, and so forth. And if you have questions about these, definitely just put them into the Q&A and we can talk about them in a few minutes. Also, there's asset management. You can think of this as insurance, legal, blockchain games, and different just crypto economic games that you can create with smart contracts. So now I'm going to go into a few examples of these. So listing and trading. So Uniswap is, probably one of the most forked at this point and one of the most popular applications in what we call DeFi. Uniswap allows you to, anyone is able to go list a token or asset that they create on this exchange, and anyone is able to go and trade, buy, and sell for it. This is something that's going to be definitely crucial on Agoric, is to create something similar to this for the Agoric blockchain. Another one is lending and borrowing. So this is just a screenshot of Aave. You can think of this as, someone goes and they put up some collateral. It looks like some Ethereum is in this. And so with that Ethereum, now you can go and borrow assets like USDT. You get an APY, so you can earn if you deposit USDT. And so the way that this all works on the backbone is it's pooled. Someone is putting up the USDT into this platform for someone else to go and be able to borrow it. And so it all works together in this fluid ecosystem. Was definitely another platform that is definitely going to be very useful on a DeFi front using the Agoric blockchain. Another example is synthetic assets. So this is a synthetic exchange. You can see here they have a synthetic of Bitcoin, a synthetic of the US dollar, synthetic of Ethereum, and they even have different pools of DeFi, so a conglomerate of different DeFi assets. They also have things like gold, silver, and many more different commodities, indexes, and Forex assets that you can be able to create. And the way that they're able to do this is through Chainlink. So if you're looking for these assets, we can definitely be able to help provide those for you to create something similar to synthetics on the Agoric chain. A few more is marketplaces. So this is one that just came out recently. It allows people in data science fields to be able to go and place their data online, and then it creates an AMM marketplace for people to go and trade, buy, and sell different data. So marketplaces are a huge application within blockchains and DeFi. Another example is insurance. So with these, you can imagine, especially with maybe like Aave, what happens if I get shorted? What happens if there's a smart contract bug that happens? It'd be great to have insurance for that. And so this is another application of decentralized finance that is very, very important and only going to grow from this point forward. So you can see here, this is an example of Nexus Mutual, where you can go and buy covers for, if there's a smart contract bug that happens on a platform. And so why is this the perfect time to be creating this? It's a perfect time because DeFi is only starting. You could see that, back in beginning of this year, it looks like $674 million locked in DeFi applications. And now we're upwards of close to 10 billion. And this was in September. I think it is over 10 billion at this point. And so you can see that, it's just growing rapidly. And you can think of it as, why would I want to put my hard-earned money onto a centralized application or a bank that's earning me maybe 0.05% just sitting there, when I can put it onto a DeFi application that's earning me 4 to 5%? If I were to tell you when we were walking down the street, like, hey, I can get you 4 to 5% on your hard-earned money that no other place can't, would you take it? I think most people would take that opportunity. And that's why we're going to see a whole lot more as things get more secure. Things are getting built with different coding languages such as JavaScript on Agoric and become more and more scalable and fast. This number is only going to skyrocket at this point. So it's the perfect time to be a part of this hackathon, perfect time to, join the movement and be a part of this as a developer creating the next generation applications. So what will be the next big thing built on Agoric? This is, again, the perfect opportunity for you to go and be able to create the next big thing. If you have questions, we'd love to be able to take them. Me and the team will also be within the Discord. You can find me at Keenan. I've sent a message into the Chainlink support section. You can also find me on Twitter, but I'm here to help. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out anytime. If you want to bounce ideas off each other, I'm definitely here to help you with that. If you have challenges while you're building this too, definitely join the Chainlink Discord, take a screenshot of this. And you can find our documentation at docs.chain.link. And yeah, I would love to, if there's any questions, I would love to answer them. Cool.
All right. And I guess I would say feel free to ask questions at any time. So we see we're getting some questions on the Discord link. We can send that out. But Keenan is going to be available throughout the hackathon. We'll take questions on Discord, and there's a separate support channel, as you mentioned. So Keenan, really appreciate the time and coming in here. And you guys have been a great partner in getting ready for this hackathon. So really excited.
Cool. Yeah. Is there any questions?
Looks like we've got some Agoric specific questions. If anyone has questions on Chainlink or DeFi, please send them in.
Cool. If not, yeah, definitely just come into the Discord section on Agoric's Discord, and happy to bounce some ideas off each other and help you along this process. But again, really want to thank the Agoric team, Vanessa and Santi, Dean, you, Rowland. Really excited for this, and yeah, good luck everyone, and see you in the Discord.
Thanks a bunch, Keenan. All right. So our next presentation coming up is going to be Dean Tribble again, going into a little bit more detail on DeFi Legos in Agoric, and that's the last presentation that we're asking of Dean today, I believe. He pulls a lot of weight over here, and I guess what I do want to mention, I noticed that we've gotten some new viewers since we started. I am Rowland. I'm the product manager at Agoric and also the primary point of contact for team formation. If you have questions, if you want to ask about support, so please do find me in Discord. I'll send my email out as well if you want to connect that way. But I'm happy to connect you to team members, happy to connect you to hack partners, and to make sure that you have a good experience here. So for now, we'll take a 15-minute break or so, and then have Dean come up at the beginning of the hour. Thanks a bunch. All right. Welcome back, everyone. So for those that missed Keenan's presentation, please do at some point go back and watch the recording. He went through a number of great existing DeFi projects, and at Agoric and in this hackathon, we're excited to see what you guys can do with those as inspiration. And so for now, with the next presentation, we're bringing Dean Tribble back on to talk about DeFi Legos, and I'll bring Dean in now.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Rowland. And I'll remind everyone that Rowland will be around pretty much all the time. He's the main person to go to get connected to any of the hack partners, to any of the support staff that you need, and to help answer your questions and get your project going. So please don't hesitate to reach out to anyone, but in particular, he's likely to be very handy and have his fingers on all the right people. Okay. So again, thank you for your time. I'm going to talk about the power of DeFi Legos in Agoric connected to the real world. You may have seen I mentioned earlier about accelerating DeFi, and these two questions about these two quotes from Mark Miller, our chief scientist at Agoric, and Sergey at smartcontract.com and co-founder of Chainlink. Those put together what we're all trying to accomplish. I'm going to be focusing on how we do DeFi Legos, how they get composed, which ones are available, and how it is that we take the information sources of Chainlink and pull them in to make them available as a DeFi Lego. One of the key reasons to use Chainlink and the oracles in Chainlink, even if you could do it yourself, is time to market, right? It's all about being able to rapidly put together things where if there's someone who's really solving a part of the problem, whether it's in a software component that implemented an atomic swap so you don't have to, or in an oracle component that implemented access to the gold price so you don't have to, it's hugely valuable to be able to leverage those, because since that's their focus, they can put a lot more attention into maintaining correctness, ensuring it's secure, ensuring the data is high quality or the transaction is high quality, ensuring audits happen, all those kinds of things. And so that's why historically in software engineering, composition where you can really use an existing component has been one of the primary enablers of exponential growth in communities, exponential growth in application capability, exponential growth in expressiveness and power of the toolkit you're using. So Agoric's building a chain that and a crypto economy that enables rapid composition like that, and that's what I'm going to go into here. Okay, so first let me have a little bit of introduction about the Agoric stack. I know a question came up about what are we built on. Agoric is a platform where most of it is agnostic to the underlying consensus engine, but we require fast finality and reasonable performance. So we use the best-in-class, battle-tested consensus engine of Cosmos, which is Tendermint. We also work very closely with Cosmos and the extended Cosmos community on both DeFi and integration and interop, and on the inter-blockchain communication protocol, so that Agoric, when it launches, will not be launching in a vacuum. It will not be launching another island. It will be launching a connected chain that connects to assets in Cosmos, connects through Peggy to assets in Ethereum, and to the markets there. On top of this, we build our secure runtime that provides the secure version of JavaScript with confined execution. I'm not going to spend any time on that, but we have lots of detail, lots of engineering. We've been part of this JavaScript standards committee for many years, long before even Agoric was founded. And in order to be able to provide and enable the secure composition that we rely on for smart contracts. And then once you get there, now we're starting to get into the enabling framework for smart contracts. Like I said, 15 years ago, people struggled to do a little bit of very cool animation and interactivity with JavaScript, and experts could do some pretty impressive things, but now beginners can do much better than they could, simply because they get to build using components that other developers built. And they get to build components and share them with their friends, or publish them and get credit and then have people build and use them. And so we're doing the same thing for smart contract components. The electronic rights transfer protocol is not a crypto protocol. It is an object protocol for how you can use objects to be able to represent digital assets, transfer them, claim them, store them in accounts and purses and so forth. And I'll go into a little bit of detail about that because these are where the first Legos appear. On top of that, we then build our smart contract framework. And I'll say a little bit about that, but most of my focus is going to be on the two layers around it, which are the fundamental Legos out of which everything else is built, and then the user-defined contract that include everything from atomic swap to Uniswap variants to covered call and so forth. So we're going to see, and obviously Oracle information as well. And in this stack, DeFi is all throughout. Like I said, DeFi appears in ERTP, but DeFi appears in our underlying integration with the staking and rewards infrastructure that we'll be talking about next month. Our focus here, though, is in giving you some of those DeFi components that we've already built so you can then build on top of them, use them to build larger, more interesting dApps. Okay. So ERTP, Electronic Rights Transfer Protocol, and what I call the issuer kit. We use the term kit when you can get a bunch of objects that are all connected to each other. So there are some key objects here that are the glue that bring together that are, as I mentioned in the chat earlier, they're the glue that enable us to have a single JavaScript smart contract that works for assets, whether it's the native currency or the native staking token, whether it is a wrapped Bitcoin brought onto ETH, pegged over Peggy, brought onto a Cosmos zone and brought over IBC onto our chain. And Atomic Swap doesn't care. It can work for either of those. The AMM, no problem. Fungible token from ETH, some atoms from the Cosmos hub, local liquidity token, all good, right? So, and it's because we get to actually use, that thing called object-oriented programming that was such a revolution in the 80s that, now we get to use it for smart contracting. Okay, so the first is, some of these are very simple, but the important thing is having the right simple abstractions. These are ones that we've evolved over many rounds, starting from doing smart contracting in the early 90s pre-blockchain. So purse is a container of a particular kind of asset. So think of it like a coin purse. It contains either fungible or non-fungible of a particular kind of asset. A payment is something you withdraw from a person, can transfer to someone else. And it's just another JavaScript object. So I can say, John.enjoy open paren payment close paren, right? And so my ability to program with it, hand them around, think of it as I pull out a bunch of coins, I hand it off to you. A mint is the thing that can create new tokens of a particular token, new non-fungible tokens, new fungible amounts, what have you. Once the mint is destroyed or unavailable, now that currency is minted all it's ever going to mint. There's no way to get any more. But if you've got a, store an NFT app or, that's creating magic items for a game, you can have a mint for that. Creating non-fungible tokens is as easy as creating fungible tokens. And then an issuer is where a mint is closely held because that's the ability to actually be able to create this stuff. An issuer is widely held so anyone can verify that the thing you just gave to me, and this is the magic that makes this object-oriented program, this protocol work in JavaScript so nicely, is that the thing you gave to me, which could be a window, could be a handle on a timer, or it could be the payment that I asked for, you use the issuer to both verify that it is indeed a payment in the currency that I was requiring, and I now have exclusive access to it. And so it arranges both of those together that I get exclusive access if and only if it is exactly the asset that I needed. Okay. And then finally, I keep mentioning a kind of a kind of token, a kind of NFT. Well, there's a few things to glue all this together. The brand is the thing that says, yep, this is wrapped ETH that came over Peggy, or this is the underlying stable coin, or this is, Joe's magic items from Joe's Magic Item Emporium, whatever it is. Right? This is a receipt And indeed we use it in oracles to have a brand of, these are quotes issued by a particular Chainlink oracle, which is the one you and I agreed on for doing business, right? And then finally, there are amounts, which are the ability to talk about an amount of things. One of the important lessons from CeFi is, never pass around a raw number, right? When brokerages first went online in the early days of the internet, Schwab and E-Trade and a few others that are lost to the mists of time, pretty much every single one of them had a bug where they provided number of shares in the amount column and amount in the number of shares column, which, as you can imagine, or a delta in an amount column, or one of these things where the numbers didn't have units, and so by gosh, someone swapped these things. Amounts are, it's not that I'm going to pass you 30, it's that I'm going to pass you 30 atoms, or I'm going to pass you 30 concert tickets for July 4th. Right, or whatever it is, it's that I'm passing you a real. I can describe a real set of assets. Right, I can describe 20. No. I can describe $20. You want to be sent $20, not just 20, right? Now, an amount is not the actual payment, right? You can only transfer assets with a payment. Amount is just the description, just like I'm talking about $20 here without having to pay you all. Okay, so those ERTP Legos, those are the initial Legos, right? Purses, payments, fungible tokens, easy to use non-fungible tokens. Those are key things that lots and lots of contracts use. And there will be a workshop where Kate walks through those in detail, where we built additional fungible assets, additional DeFi Legos on top of it, a simple faucet, or a simple NFT store, or NFT sales contract. And Kate will be walking through those, through a couple of those tomorrow in order to introduce the basic concepts. And not only do those have, not only do those have reusable smart contracts you can plug in and have a faucet for your own token, or do NFT sales for an NFT you mint for the application that you built, but they have dApps as well to be able to show these things. And so, they come out with simple dApps to be able to demonstrate this and to demonstrate the end-to-end of going from a contract on chain to a cloud service that might be aggregating information for you out to a UI and to the wallet, so you can actually have full end-to-end application talking to a chain, in particular, obviously, the Agoric testnet once this is deployed up in the testnet. Okay, and there's both, again, fungible and non-fungible examples there where it's easy to do both. Okay, so we have a lot of other example DeFi Legos have been around and that we use. So atomic swap is sort of the obvious, the non-custodial trade where I'm going to make an atomic swap of concert tickets, and what I want when I make that atomic swap is I want to get 3 Quatloos. You get the other end of that contract. That you're my counterparty by getting an invitation to the other seat at the table of this contract, as it were, and you need to provide the Quatloos, and if so, you will automatically get my concert ticket. They will be swapped for you. And there's a bunch of key elements of the contract framework in which we deploy all of these that make it safe and powerful to be able to safely interact with other parties. There's what we call safety properties, right? If you're familiar with memory safety or type safety, right? With memory safety, right? In C, sometimes you'd have a bug in the program, and now a pointer that you thought was to a payment now is a dangling pointer that goes off to some random place in memory, and your whole system corrupts and crashes on you. There's a large class of bugs in the history of computation, especially security bugs, that come from that were entirely eliminated once you had memory safe languages like Java, C# and JavaScript. And it's not that they moved around. It's not that they went anywhere. They were just gone, right? You were just programming at a better level of abstraction such that there's a large class of bugs that simply went away. Well, what our smart contract framework adds is similar safety properties at the economic level. So what we call offer safety is, instead of just sending you a bunch of Quatloos or sending you a bunch of atoms, I say, I'm going to make an offer. I will give you these atoms as long as you give me a concert ticket. And then the contract framework underneath all of these DeFi Legos, as they're plugging together, the contract framework underneath provides that assurance. So the atomic swap contract is trivial because it's trivial to run because the underlying infrastructure it's in provides that safety, so that clients say, yeah, I'll give you this money as long as you give me that other thing, and then the infrastructure will just handle it. So that shows up when components are using each other, or connected to each other, when users are making offers to applications and so forth, to really raise the level of safety that we need in order to be able to take these kinds of applications mainstream. Okay, so simple exchanges, simple order book, auctions, automated market. We have auto swap, which is a Uniswap equivalent, or rather a multi-pool auto swap. Voting, something that's kind of been on people's minds. I have a presentation later on Thursday about pluggable and extensible voting contracts, where the same mechanism that you'll be able to vote for on-chain governance, or you'll be able to vote for parameters in the stablecoin machine on our economy, you can just reuse that, not by copying the code, which can introduce bugs, like lendf.me did that, and they copied compound governance code and lost $25 million as a result of a bug that got introduced in there. No, you just actually instantiate the very same thing in order to reuse it, and inside of your smart contract, where you're parameterizing it with your liquidity token, and now you've got a governance mechanism, right? And that's a place where, by having this same pluggable extensibility, right, there's an awful lot of DeFi, which is actually governance, being able to take some well worked out governance mechanism and not change it and invalidate its security reviews is really powerful, right? And having each vote be an independent contract that gets launched just for that vote and goes away once the decision is made, means that one vote, if there was a bug, can't corrupt another vote. You've got all these safety properties. I'll come back to covered call and OTC desk if we have time at the end, but I want to move on to what's missing here, right? And the answer is, of course, oracles, right? None of those had the connection that we need to the real world to be able to do the much broader set of transactions, the much broader set of use cases and examples that we all know we want and the mainstream requires, right? And so we have a bunch of components, a bunch of these DeFi Legos. And when I say DeFi Legos, by the way, I mean DeFi Legos, which are separate contracts that run independently in their own little compartments, such that that corruption of one can't corrupt another, and so forth, right? And so we have Oracle components that are exactly that kind of contract and DeFi Lego. So what's the integration look like? What's the integration with Chainlink look like? What does an Oracle look like, right? Well, start, of course, is you've got Chainlink nodes on the left that can go out to the internet to do all the things that need to be done to connect to the world there, right? To talk to your bank, to talk to brokerage houses, to get the gold prices, all the examples that Keenan talked about in our previous talk. That gets deployed and connects to Agoric solo nodes. Agoric solo nodes are the same engine that runs on chain, but optimized for running in the cloud on behalf of a particular application or a user, where it then gets the additional ability to talk to, for example, a Chainlink node right next to it, or even integrate together into a single deployment, so that it does that on the one side, and on the other side, it then connects with our inter-blockchain communication protocol and various secure protocols to the chain to be able to send and receive object messages in JavaScript over the wire in a very simple fashion, using the promises that Markham and I invented back in 1988. And it's all very straightforward and familiar to developers in JavaScript UI, developers in Node, and so forth. Okay? And so with that, we connect over to an Oracle contract. This is in the Agoric SDK repository. There's an Oracle contract that implements the very simple integration that we did, that does currently a no-fee integration to the no-fee oracles in Chainlink, and already has the mechanics to be able to do fee, but we didn't do the plumbing to make that available, because the question is, how do you want to manage that? How do you want to arrange abstractions and reusable components to, for example, pool funds among a bunch of clients to be able to pay for a fee or so forth? The Chainlink community has a lot of experience and thought already on how to do that. We're looking forward to someone building something interesting there and winning the prize of best integration enhancement. Right? That's one of the main places. So that provides the general query interface into the Chainlink any API, which is very powerful. That's the plumbing to be able to surface that but surface that in a very JavaScript friendly, easy to use way. But there's an even simpler mechanism, which is the aggregator implementation. So there's an API we defined, and love your feedback, love your experience, etc. There's an API called the price authority. Now in our system, we have a time authority where you can say, this contract will expire at 3 o'clock according to that clock there, where that clock happens to be, tracking the Ethereum block height over, over IBC, or it happens to be going out through an Oracle and getting the real time from NIST or something like that. The nice thing is our system is very pluggable. That's another reusable component that you can get, so you can have contracts on our chain settled according to time on another chain, or setting according to a local time or real time, or or according to the holiday schedule published by the New York Times, or whatever it is you're going to agree to cooperate with someone around. That's a time authority. We have the same thing for price authority, where you can have a contract that will settle or that will react once the price crosses a certain threshold, or a react when time crosses a certain threshold and it gets a price, and that sort of thing. And I'll go into some of those. But the other thing is indeed you can write contracts that go directly to that use a query call to go directly to that more powerful interface in order to build the next level of aggregator. And indeed, this aggregator is just one of these contracts, one of these another contracts that is a client of the Oracle contract, to be able to roll it up in ways that that some of you have a lot of experience with. So we've mapped over or brought in key Chainlink abstractions that you can then use or build more of. But the nice thing is this price authority, man, it just looks like a JavaScript eventual iterator. It looks like simple concepts that are already very familiar to JavaScript programmers, and so it plugs in as a Lego as just something you can quickly pick up and use. So we've got both powers of quickly picking up and use already provisioned data, plumbed all the way through into an easy, consistent, standard JavaScript API that you can plug in and rapidly leverage the data that will be available on chain. So let's look at an example of that. Let's say you have a loan provider where you can come in and here's some collateral, I want some stablecoin or whatever it is. That has access to a particular Oracle, a particular price authority, the aggregator that is sort of a central part of this Chainlink integration. But one of the key elements is we already have a loan contract. And the other thing that the loan provider needs is an AMM, where in our case, the loan, once it crosses a liquidation threshold according to the price feed that we get from out in the market, it will then liquidate on a local AMM. That's a useful architecture here, right? And so that's what we want this loan example. And indeed, that loan example, Kate is going to walk through in detail on Tuesday. Patrick will walk through how to do all of this wiring to hook up your oracles, and then Kate will show how it all integrates and how the loan contract functions. Okay, and so every time I come in and do a loan, instead of it being let's make this loan thing more complicated, it instantiates a brand new instance of the loan contract, right? There's this notion of not, here's an address of some random thing and it's a contract and I want to kind of pry the source code out of it so I can reuse. No. The notion of the source code of the contract deployed to our chain, that's an object that I can now get ratings on, I can get approvals for, I can get security reviews, I can get, attributes on chain, so that when someone instantiates a new one of those, I know that, by gosh, it's running the loan contract that I already verified. And it doesn't matter who the loan provider is. I can get a loan contract from anyone that obeys the contract that, that my insurance provider says, yep, that's the loan contract that we're insuring. Get one of those and you're good, right? And so we instantiate this loan contract with a reference to the particular aggregator, the particular price feed that the people that want the loan require, and a pointer to the AMM that we wanted to liquidate on. And so Kate will walk you through, here's how liquidation works. When the aggregate, what this loan is doing is it is signing up. So each loan contract is a separate contract, and it's signing up to liquidate on a price-based notification. This is one of the another key differentiator of the Agoric platform versus Ethereum is it's an async active platform. You can have a smart contract that wakes up every week to rebalance your portfolio, right? You can have a smart contract that wakes up every 5 minutes in order to see whether it's time to go and sell something that you've been waiting to sell because you're waiting for the market to thicken. In this case, you can sign up for this price authority to get notified when the price crosses a threshold up or down, right? And so now I want a loan that when it crosses this threshold, I'm going to liquidate, right? And so that's a really awesome, powerful thing to do that with one line of code in JavaScript that millions of programmers could understand. Okay. So yes, apparently I'm running out of time here. I'm almost done here. So another component, another smart contract that we'll talk about is a call spread. Now, one of the economists that helped design the Agoric crypto economy and a bunch of these mechanisms will be presenting on Monday about how the call spread is able to cover a large range of financial interactions. And then Chris Hibbert after that will be walking you through the code to show how it works, right? And so a call spread is I was told, a linear payoff sandwich between two constant payoffs, right? The important thing is it's something that can be used as a component itself, simply parameterized to accomplish a vast number of other use cases. So the very same contract can be instantiated to do a put option, to call options, futures, binaries that you would use to do prediction markets. That's something that, people maybe are really familiar with in the last couple of weeks, right? Collateralized loans, etc. That same contract. So not only can I plug components together, but I can take components that are rich components that people understand, parameterize them, and use them already. And so my big question for everyone out there is, can you take these components? These are the components, right? The question is, who's going to make a market, and how does a human get to it, and how do we get the right liquidity, and how do you trade them, and what are the right packagings of call spread in order to satisfy the needs that traders have? That's an exciting area of growth and innovation, and one can also take these and do some innovation on them directly, right? So what will you build? We're really looking forward to hearing about that, and we'll be around for questions or to talk about each of these things. All of the Legos that I pointed at here are in the source code tree in Agoric SDK. There's a presentation tomorrow, or a workshop tomorrow by Michael Fig to help you get set up in the Agoric SDK if you need it. And then to walk through, as I said, how the initial contract wiring works. And finally, there'll be a bunch of workshops later on each of these different contracts to be able to be able to leverage them, build them, understand them, enhance them. So please join. I'm looking forward to you helping make DeFi even more exciting and a whole lot less dangerous by operating this nice, safe, composable space. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions. And now, remember, Rowland is the guy to connect you up with all the development help you need.
That's right. Thank you, Dean. And we've had a number of questions come in during your presentation, so I think we've been addressing them in comments, but always happy to take more. So as Dean mentioned, we've got a lot of interesting presentations coming up, not only just today, but moving forward over the next few days, digging into more details, doing code walkthroughs, making sure that you understand how to implement these Legos in our system. So really excited about that. And with that, Dean, I'll take you down, and we've got 2 minutes. We'll give you a quick 2-minute break, and then Patrick from Chainlink is going to be talking about the value of Chainlink oracles.
I'm really excited to hear Patrick speak.
Me as well. All right. Thanks, Dean, and thanks, everyone. We'll see you in 2 minutes. All right, and I'm back. So again, happy to have Patrick Collins from Chainlink here presenting on the value of Chainlink Oracle. So I'm going to bring him in now and let him get started.
Hi, thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate the introduction. And yeah, Dean bringing the fire as usual, which was fantastic to hear. So thanks everybody for having me. Like Rowland just said, I'm Patrick from Chainlink Labs. I work on the Chainlink project, and I am the developer advocate. So I help engineers get set up. I do education pieces like this, and talk about smart contracts and blockchain, and just beyond excited because we're really in this insane place right now. I know everyone's kind of been talking about it, but yeah, I mean, DeFi is massive. DeFi has recently blasted off, and a huge part of that is because we have created definitive truth for specific price pairs for specific pieces of data, so that people can actually build reliable, decentralized smart contracts that don't have to depend on any single centralized entity. Obviously, that's what decentrality means. So with that, getting this data is critically important. Getting this reliable, decentralized data is what's going to bring these smart contracts from just doing token transfers to actually being able to do really, really interesting things, and using blockchain to its fullest potential, and really unlocking blockchain. So in this presentation, I'm basically going to be talking about Chainlink and smart contracts, and how Chainlink basically unlocks them, like I was saying, to do these really amazing things and unlock this fourth industrial revolution that we're steamrolling towards. So just kind of a quick overview of what we're going to be going over today. We're going to talk about the smart contract connectivity problem, how Chainlink is already supporting the growth of DeFi. We had Keenan earlier go over DeFi and why it's important, and I'll touch on that a little bit as well. Untapped potential and some tools and resources you have to build Chainlink smart contracts. So we will not be going over the remix demo. There's a fantastic Agoric Chainlink demo put together by I believe it was Mike and probably a couple other engineers there as well. But yeah, that'll be we'll be going over that demo next week on Monday, actually. So stay tuned for that. But so basically, in order to really understand Chainlink, we first need to really understand what smart contracts do, and how they're not able to connect natively to external data or any off-chain resource on their own. And this is a huge limiting factor for smart contract adoption, because again, this means the only thing that they can do is token transfers. I can send John 12 Bitcoin or 12 ETH or 12 or whatever cryptocurrency that you're using, right? And this is nice, but it doesn't allow for us to have these agreements. So for those of you who are a little bit more technical, the question kind of comes up is, hey, well, why can't a blockchain just make an API call? Why can't a blockchain just do what every other system does to get data? And this is actually a really, really important question. And the answer is because blockchains are deterministic. This is a really, really important concept. They need to be deterministic in order to be validated by all other nodes on the chain, right? So if you were to replay any blockchain from start to finish, you should end up in the exact same state every single time. This is part of what allows these consensus protocols to work effectively. If we had random data, or not random data, but if we had APIs that can change, get updated, or hacked, be part of the consensus protocol, then two nodes are going to go to validate someone's API call, and they could be wildly different, right? So if a node makes an API call to check the weather API says it's 76 degrees, and they put that on chain. Another node goes to validate this, and the API changed that the half second later that they checked it out now says it's 77 degrees. Well, now they can't agree on what the state of the blockchain is. So they can't make these API calls natively. They can't get this data by themselves, and that's why Chainlink and oracles are really necessary. So this is something, I'm harping on this because it's really important. Blockchains are deterministic systems, and they're intentionally deterministic systems. So to interact with the outside world, because obviously we still want to, in order for smart contracts to do interesting things, we need to use what's called an oracle. Now, an oracle is any device that interacts with the off-chain world to provide data with smart contracts. And additionally, you can do the reverse of that too. You can use an oracle to send data or send requests from a blockchain. So due to some interaction on chain, you would use an oracle to do something off chain. So oracles are really the bridge or the middleware that connects the real world to any blockchain that you're using. So and yeah, they report the results of that data that's on chain, so that the blockchain can stay deterministic. The way that they do this actually is when you make a transaction on the blockchain, it actually puts whatever data that you would normally want to get into that transaction and puts that on chain. That way it can stay deterministic, but you can still work with this external data. So it's really, really important to keep that in mind. So this is where Chainlink comes in. You know, there are thousands of APIs out there that are already providing data that people need for their applications. And Chainlink makes it really easy to enable connectivity between those APIs and smart contracts, even if they require authentication. So that now you can have decentralized applications powered by the same exact reliable APIs the rest of the world and current web applications use today. So a single Chainlink oracle is also known as a Chainlink node. I'll use them a little bit interchangeably here. So now a lot of users today still don't really understand blockchain, right? Sending payments in cryptocurrencies isn't universally accepted yet. And when a smart contract is executed, we need the ability to get paid in a currency that we want. So Chainlink makes it really easy for these off-chain payments to take place based off these on-chain interactions. This also works for cross-chain communication and sending payments to other chains. Chainlink uses this concept called external adapters. And for those of you who are going to go to the Monday workshop, we'll see them actually in practice. And we'll talk more about them on Monday, like I said. And these allow connectivity between any resource, be it an open API, an API with authentication, payments API, blocked or different blockchain. Really, they're this core functionality that allows Chainlink to be customized in any way that you want. Literally, even more interesting is work automation, which we're starting to see more and more people use. Like, you know, something happens on chain, and instead of, you know, sending a payment, instead of accessing an API, it triggers, you know, some off-chain service to start running. And you can have a decentralized task being done off-chain as well. And the external adapters is what allows that to happen. So they're really insanely powerful and allows for Chainlink to do whatever you want it to do, which is really, really fantastic. So yeah, you can use these to provide authentication, processing, reduce, you know, gas on chain. And external adapters can be written in any language that you want, and they only need to react to specific requests sent to a Chainlink node. So because of this, you actually don't even need to be a Solidity engineer or a JavaScript engineer or an Agoric engineer or a blockchain wizard to build these external adapters. You can really, you know, build them in whatever language that you're currently familiar with. Now, here's where things get a little bit more interesting, and in my mind, this is really the really important piece of this whole thing. So oracles are great, right? They get data on chain and they send data off chain. However, if you send data or get data through a single centralized oracle, you now have a centralized point of failure for the entire smart contract. This basically defeats the purpose of you building a decentralized smart contract in the first place. So, you know, the reason that blockchains are so fantastic is because there's decentralized entities. You no longer have these centralized sovereign governments over currencies. You no longer have these, you know, centralized corporations that control, you know, the task automation. It's, you know, you build these decentralized smart contracts. So if you're going to build a decentralized contract, but get your data from a single point, that data provider now has control over your entire contract, right? You know, something really simple. Let's say you build a decentralized stock exchange, but you're getting your price feed from a single data provider. If somebody bribes that data provider to say, hey, you know, make the price of Tesla $100 more expensive, they now ruin your decentralized smart contract, and it's no longer decentralized. Oh, did the page What? Oh, did we lost the page for a second? Okay, but we're good. But yeah, you basically ruin and lose the decentrality of your smart contract. So this is massively important to avoid. And it's also not only the data provider, but it's the node that delivers the data as well. So if the data provider is centralized, you get this issue. If the oracle is centralized, the data is flowing through one oracle, they can manipulate the data and then send it on its way. So this is really, really bad. We never want to have a single centralized oracle. For the most part, there's one exception, and I'll go into that into a little bit. But so saying a centralized Chainlink node by itself is decentralized is kind of like calling a tree a forest. A single entity does not make up a whole, right? To make applications truly decentralized, you need to have a network of Chainlink nodes or a network of Chainlink oracles. And we'll go over that in a little bit as well. And so, the reason why I'm stressing this point is not just some, watch out. But this has actually already happened, right? We've seen attacks where projects have lost, literally millions of dollars since their centralized Oracle feed was hijacked. So this isn't, just voodoo or random stuff. Where we've seen decentralized applications proclaim decentralized application go to ruin because they were secretly centralized with the Oracle sources that they were using. So Chainlink is designed to be this modular infrastructure, and you can build a decentralized Oracle network used to connect smart contracts to any API. You can select as many Oracle nodes or Chainlink nodes again as you like, and use as many data sources as you like in order to trigger the execution of your smart contract. So, then again, Chainlink enables, these additional off-chain interactions like payments or work automation to occur based on the execution of your smart contract. So if the result of a smart contract said that somebody, needs to be paid $100 USD, you can utilize Chainlink to actually send this exact transaction. So again, this is what makes it so powerful is you have this network of nodes that, the decentralized smart contract says, hey, we need to do something, and the oracles do it as a whole. And if one or two, in the same way that makes blockchain secure, if a number of Chainlink oracles are malicious or behave poorly, the decentrality of the network allows it to persevere and carry on. So it's really, really important. And to get you started with DeFi, the Chainlink project has actually gone ahead and found many of the best blockchain node operators on the planet and combined their prowess to build what's called price feeds. Now, these are decentralized on-chain reference points that can be considered a source of truth for various currency pairs, like the price of ETH in terms of USD, for example. And these are, at least right now, by far the most popular use case of Chainlink, and there's good reason why. These price feeds are securing literally billions of dollars in the Ethereum chain right now. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I'll talk about the DeFi use cases in a second, but a little bit more about these price feeds. Each node in the network independently gets data from some of the highest quality data APIs and reports their answers back on chain. You can actually see the answers that these providers are reporting, and everything is transparent. So if you look at this little visualization here, all those nodes circling that one point in the middle, that's and the numbers associated with them, that's the answer that they're reporting. So you can see if someone is being malicious. If someone's being malicious, you just kick them off the network. So everything is incredibly transparent, and then all their responses get aggregated in the middle. That little shield check mark, that is the aggregated answer of this decentralized network of Chainlink oracles. And this is what makes it so powerful. Is, as you can clearly see, if a bunch of these go down, the network is still going to continue. The network is still going to work just fine. You can check out that page at feeds.chain.link. It's got a lot of really cool visualizations and you can learn a lot about the Chainlink ecosystem by kind of like going through some of those pages. So in DeFi right now, and I know Keenan kind of went over some of this too, these price feeds are already being used by a slew of some of the top DeFi projects around the world. the proven safety, reliability, and power of these applications is a testament to the power of the Chainlink and the price feed. So you can see a couple of them here, across all DeFi platforms, synthetic assets, lending and borrowing, trading, asset management. There's a reason that so many of the top projects in the DeFi space are using Chainlink. And so this was a snapshot of maybe a month back of what's called DeFi Pulse, and that page changes on an hourly basis because of the whims of the crypto market. But it shows at the time 5 of the top DeFi projects and how much money was actually locked. And if we look at this graphic right here, we see 3 of the top 5 projects are using these Chainlink price feeds, namely Aave, Synthetics, and Yearn.finance. And the reason, again, that they use them is that it just works. It's safe. You get your data in super easy. It's probably one of the easiest pieces of data to integrate in any smart contract. And I've heard Mark from Aave say a couple of wonderful things, like Chainlink is the holy grail of DeFi, and the best part about Chainlink is that it just works, and that's really what we strive to do, is have things just work. So Synthetics, just a couple more stats here. Synthetics at 900 million, Loopring 20 million, Set Protocol 20 million, Aave 1.5 billion with a B. So these are highly secure. They're clearly being battle tested. They've been battle tested, and these are some of the applications that still trust them to today. So, and in addition to getting any API or working with any off-chain data, something that's been really, really tough, and I could honestly spend an hour talking about this, but I don't have an hour. Something that's been really tough, and if any of you engineers are out there, getting random numbers is an issue in computer science. The reason it's such an issue is because computer science and computer systems are deterministic systems, right? So imagine, so it's already hard enough on a regular computer system, but in a deterministic blockchain, getting a random number is even harder, right? Determinism, if you know what the result of everything is going to be, how are you ever going to get a number that's really random that nobody can predict, right? So it's been incredibly difficult, and the conventional ways up to this point to get random numbers has been using the block hash. So an engineer would write their script and just kind of like hash the block hash, use that as their random number. But we've seen issues with this. We've seen projects have a really hard time and be attacked because of this, because this keeps them open to the at least one attack vector of miners actually attacking them. So imagine a situation where you're a miner, you signed up for like a lottery on a smart contract where the payout is $1 million, and you're mining blocks, and you mine a block that would be the winning hash. However, you look at the hash and you realize that it's not your number. It's not your number that you win. So what do? You just don't publish it. You just throw the block out, and essentially the miners have now ruined the fairness of the game. Right? They've ruined the fairness of the lottery. And even worse, if a pool of these miners get together and maybe, as little as 2%, and they just start throwing out blocks that they mine because, those blocks aren't winning, they're highly incentivized to do so, right? Because they get their payout could be something like $1 million. And whenever they throw out a block, I'm going to use the Ethereum as the chain here. Whenever they throw out a block, they're only really foregoing like 1 or 2 or 3 ETH. So they're actually, it's a rational choice for them to throw out a block to forego that reward so that they can get that much bigger reward. But I lost my train of thought here. But anyways, so the Chainlink VRF is a way to provably request a random number from a Chainlink oracle from this off-chain service. And the interesting part is, the part that's kind of the crazy crypto magic in my mind, is that when the node actually returns the answer, the on-chain VRF coordinator can actually verify if that number was random or not, which is kind of insane, saying that this is a provably random number. I don't think that this is something that I've never seen even before blockchain, having provably random numbers in your system. And this allows you to have these provably fair, these provably secure, games, medical sampling, drafting, stats, whatever you want to make, you can have provably random numbers. And this is something else that Chainlink enables. And we're starting to see more and more adoption here. Pool Together, Agoric is working on it. There's a number of projects that have realized how powerful this is for their application. So I'm popping off a little bit, but let me move on here. So, and then just to kind of quickly summarize, we've seen, 3 of these incredibly powerful use cases, right? Chainlink allows you to get and send any data between any blockchain. It allows you to get these. It allows you to get these provably random numbers, and then it also allows you to get these certified, definitive points of truth on chain for whatever pricing and right now, or for whatever data. And like I said, right now, price data is kind of the most popular definitive truth, but really anything, the sky is the limit. It's really creativity is the only bound in this case. So we have an article called 44 Ideas for Smart Contracts. This is just kind of a list of ideas. If you're coming to this hackathon, you're like, I'm not really sure what to build. Hopefully this gives you a little bit of insight. So, and these are some of my favorites. So DeFi, obviously, DeFi is massive. The Agoric chain, in particular, is set up really, really well for DeFi. So just any type of any traditional finance application that can be DeFi'd or DeFiified is perfect for building something here. DeFi is massive. We're not even close to hitting the market cap of like current systems. So there's so much space to improve here. Fantasy sports or really any gaming. These are massive use cases that we're looking to see more and more of now that VRF in particular is out, and getting these random numbers is a lot easier. Tokenized assets is absolutely huge, like splitting up a car, a plot of land, shares of a stock. It makes it really easy to keep track of who owns what without having to deal with any of the paperwork, right? And since your data is coming from these decentralized Chainlink oracles, nobody can mess it up, and nobody can tamper with your data or be like, oh, I lost the paperwork, because it's all on chain. Insurance is probably one of my favorite use cases here. And it really hits home, and it's kind of like one of the easiest ones to really understand why blockchain and smart contracts need to come sooner rather than later. The example I normally give is farmer and crop insurance. Imagine all your crops get destroyed due to the weather, and your insurance that you've been paying doesn't want to pay out because of some pre-existing condition. This is perfectly exemplifies the conflict of interest between policyholders and their clients. It's in the insurance provider's best interest to find these loopholes and screw over the client, because that's how they can make the most money. So they're financially incentivized to do this. And maybe they withhold their funds, and sure, maybe you go to court, but 6 months or a year of court procedures and you still haven't gotten paid. Maybe you needed that money to, pay medical bills. Maybe you needed to, not get evicted from your home. So these are, to me, this is kind of like one of the biggest calls to actions and needs for smart contracts to come to life is insurance. Obviously, everything else that I said is obviously massive, and it's really hard for me to pick. But I feel like this one's one of the easier ones to kind of get that emotional connection with. And with a decentralized smart contract, you don't have to trust that the insurance company or the insurance provider is going to do the right thing, because the right thing is actually infrastructural with Chainlink. So with that, I know I have like 5 minutes left. I think I'm still sharing this screen. How do I? Let me switch screens real quick. Oops, spelled docs wrong. For those of you builders looking for a place to start, looking for where to go, let me actually expand this. The Chainlink docs are really going to be your home. The Chainlink docs and actually this Agoric Chainlink. Spelled Agoric wrong. And this repo right here. These are going to basically be your homes. This has a step-by-step kind of how to get started with Agoric and Chainlink. If you, am I streaming on the right page? Yeah, I'm not streaming on the right page. Sorry, I'm streaming on this tab. This GitHub repo, you can literally step by step. And like I said, on Monday, we'll actually go through this repo doing it. Before you do any of this stuff, be sure to go through this documentation here. You're going to need to do that in order to do anything here. But once you do, and once you get all set up, then you can head over to the Chainlink docs, and you can run your own node to connect to the Chainlink Oracle. Or you can just connect to somebody else's node and work with some of these, make a GET request, find existing jobs, maybe even sync up with other engineers at the hackathon and say, hey, like, let's joint build a project. Let's joint build some crazy price feeds or something. But this is kind of where you can live. And if you're brand new, definitely take a look at that beginner walkthrough and look through that. But yeah, all the documentation is here. We're going to be in the Discord. There's a Chainlink support and an Agoric support that we're going to be in. So this is really the opportunity to get really creative, go through some of this documentation, and then just start building. You know, the sky's really the limit here with what you can do. Again, Monday, we're going to be going over that repo that I showed you to show you, exactly how to get some Chainlink pieces spun up on Agoric. If you're feeling ambitious, I absolutely challenge you to take a look at it yourself right now. With that being said, I know I only have a couple minutes left here. I will pause for questions. So it looks like there's a lot of questions here. Comments.
I'm going to join you as well, Patrick. We've had a number of questions and comments coming in through YouTube and then as well in Discord. If you do have questions for Patrick, please do send them in. We can address them now. We can also address them later. Patrick, again, you guys have been a great partner getting ready for this, and really appreciate the presentation and all the detail and ideas for hackers to execute on as the hackathon starts.
Absolutely. So I got like 2 minutes left here to do questions. The security on by Chainlink is a guarantee. Yep, you got it, Dot Man. The adapters for Chainlink nodes connect as Oracle contracts. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, maybe there aren't questions. Maybe it sounds like you guys are pretty with it. And I see a couple of engineers I'm familiar with. Hey, how's it going, guys? Yep. Yeah. Actually, it looks like you guys got it in the comments. Yeah, happy to take any other questions. It sounds like people know what's up. I see people talking about. We have a question on Discord private chat. Okay. Let me check the Discord private chat. Is it happening tonight? On fairness, who learns about the value first? Oh, that's an interesting question. So technically, the Oracle, learns about the value. I'm assuming we're talking about the Chainlink VRF here. Technically, the Oracle actually finds about the value first, obviously, because they're posting it on chain. But once it's posted on chain, whoever is listening to that contract and whoever's watching that contract will know. That is an interesting question, actually. But yeah, the Oracle learns about it first, and then then whoever's listening to the contracts. So that's a good question.
All right, great. Well, Patrick, we're at time, and I think we've got Markham and Sergey all queued up. So again, really appreciate you coming on and your support throughout the hackathon as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to see what you guys build.
All right. So we're just going to roll straight into our Fireside chat. So I've seen the views being ticking up a little bit on YouTube. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Rowland Graus. I'm the PM at Agoric, and I'm also running and hosting the hackathon. So for any of your questions or anything that you need during the hackathon, feel free to reach out to me in Discord. So the whole team at Agoric is really pleased to present a chat between our Mark Miller, Agoric's co-founder and chief scientist, and Sergey Nazarov, co-founder and CEO of Chainlink. To do a quick introduction of both of them, and let me bring them on right now. Sergey is the co-founder of Chainlink, the leading decentralized Oracle network, working with leading banks, insurance companies, and large technology firms on the creation of universally connected smart contracts. Chainlink has become the de facto standard for Oracle use in the DeFi space, and most projects that are launching within Oracle immediately look to Chainlink to start. And Mark Miller is an early pioneer in the development of market-based secure distributed computing and smart contracts. He's an architect of the Xanadu hypertext publishing system, designer of the E and Dr. Seth's distributed secure programming languages, an ECMAScript committee member, a former Google research scientist, and a senior fellow at the Foresight Institute. So thank you both so much for joining us today. And to get us kicked off, I'm going to just start with a question about really what got you started on your journey. So you both exhibit an intense passion for security and distributed computing. It's an interest that is really underrepresented in general in our industry. And I'm curious how that passion came to be. And do you remember a specific moment? Please tell us your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Glad to describe how I got into an interest in this. I think decentralized computation for me really showed a new and better model for how people can arrive at computations that they can rely on. And when I think about all the things that people are trying to do with computations, generally speaking, and specifically in automating certain contractual outcomes, I think that the decentralized guarantees that you get from both blockchains and Oracle networks and any environment where you apply decentralized computation with a lot of cryptographic primitives and a lot of guarantees around both how the cryptography is verified and the fact that that's verified by a large group of Sybil resistant independent parties, either because there's a huge amount of parties or because you create Sybil resistance in some other form. I think that that's a new format for how people can rely on computing, basically. And once you have that new format where people can suddenly get greater and greater degrees of reliability, I think it opens up entirely new categories of transactions, entirely new categories of relationships between someone on their phone having a private key and the computing system guaranteeing they're going to do something for them. And if people's access to computing systems through the internet and through desktops has taken society to a certain point, then I think the ability to have highly reliable interactions with computing systems, because those computing systems can be relied upon, right? Because they're secure, because they're decentralized, because they work in a way that provides users certain guarantees, I think creates a new category of usage and relationships between people and computing systems, right? And so I genuinely think that the decision over the next few years for developers will be, do I build a web application or do I build a blockchain-based application? And I think if blockchain-based applications become easy to build and they maintain their security, then what you arrive at is a world where you probably do use a lot of web standards for the interfaces and for some other things that they're very, very good at. But the actual relationship to the computation or the digital agreement or the automation that the service is providing will happen in a blockchain-based way. And the systems that can enable that, I think, will form the backbone of how people relate to computation, generally speaking.
Yeah. For me, I always come back to a phrase of mine that I think is central to pretty much my entire professional life, everything I've done, which is if we can lower the risk of cooperation, we can get a more cooperative world. For me, this started with my work with Ted Nelson on the Xanadu project, where we were conceiving of a distributed hypertext system well before the web. And we wanted to build a system that was uncorruptible, that in which the Ministry of Truth revision of the past would not be possible, and which was uncensorable. So uncorruptible and uncensorable. Then later became a early cypherpunk. And throughout the entire time, the issue is not to avoid trust, but rather to recognize that trust is scarce, and that for however much trust that there is, you want to leverage it as much as possible. You want to achieve as much cooperation as possible at a given level of risk, and to be able to achieve a given and for a given level of cooperation to be able to achieve it at lower risk. By decreasing the risk needed for cooperation, we can get a lot more cooperation for the bounded trust that we've got, and repeated interactions within the framework of a secure computing system will lead to people dealing with each other in a more trustworthy fashion, because the framework rewards acting in a trustworthy fashion and punishes deceit. So that's sort of my general framework for this.
And Mark, I know that you've sort of addressed this problem in various forms through your career. I'm curious how you view the current implementation or existing systems that we've seen arise since the rise of Bitcoin with blockchains, but then also with oracles. How does that fit into the way you've thought about things over time?
Okay, so I initially was thinking, before the invention of blockchain, about the resilience of the system coming purely from diversity, loose coupling, competition, and reputation feedback. So you've got, like with the web, we've seen a loosely coupled decentralization where you've got lots of different sites. The sites never have to come to joint agreement on any one thing. Any one site might go bad, but there's no one site that everything depends on. So competition and reputation feedback keep the system as a whole resilient. The brilliant thing about blockchain is that we can build the equivalent of single institutions, single points on the network that are much more reliable than any of the components that go into creating it, and that can give us agreed answers. And this is much more robust than competition and reputation feedback, because, as I've heard Sergey point out in one of his talks, even when you've got institutions with a very long history and a very high reputation, in an emergency where people are panicking, that long history of operating with a high reputation is not a guarantor of reliable operation. So in an emergency where things really make a difference, that things are operating in a reliable manner, being able to have the rules of the system be expressed in code, be expressed in smart contracts, and running on reliable nodes, reliable virtual computers. A blockchain is a virtual computer that's built out of a massive multi-way agreement of many individual computers running in different institutions within different jurisdictions, cross-checking each other. By running things within that framework, you can understand ahead of time how things are going to operate in an emergency and get reliable operation both in and out of emergencies with a much lower cost, a much less ambiguity, and much more trustworthiness. So that's with regard to the internals of the computation, and that's what Agoric has been mostly focused on. And then what Chainlink has been focused on is how do you get reliable, trustworthy information about the external world, which is just as important because the computation is about things in the external world. That's why we care about the computation. And with regard to the external world, there's no source of objective truth, but you can, by again, using the logic of massive multi-way corroboration of incentive structures that reward trustworthy behavior and punish deceit, you can create information feeds from the external world that are credible. The term that I love the term credible, because it's clear that that it's not getting at an absolute, but it's getting at something very, very important. And with blockchain and with Chainlink style oracles, we can build systems in which the computation is more credible and the information about the external world that is driving the decisions of the computation is more credible.
So from Sergey, from your perspective, first off, I'd love to hear if that aligns with how you're thinking about things in general. And then, happy to go on to the next question, but would love to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, it does. I think credible is a great term. I think that's right. And I think there's this kind of not two sides to this problem, but there are two pieces to a lot of the smart contracts that people are excited about. And those two pieces are, you need an environment where you get guarantees about state and that the contract will operate once triggered. And then you need guarantees that it's going to be triggered correctly. And I think that this is the thing that me and Mark really, from the beginning, have felt very strongly about as being two equally important, necessary parts of the puzzle. Because if you don't have an environment where you can reliably trigger state, if you have credible data, that's not worth so much, right? Because the environment where things are getting triggered can get manipulated. And, even with credible data, even with highly reliable data sources being validated across multiple oracles, you still don't have what's needed to achieve the reliability that you want, right? And this is really the thing that blockchains have brought into existence, is an environment where you can now have these state changes in this format that never existed before, right? And state changes and contractual state are very similar, right? The technical ideas of state changes and contractual terms, it's just, what is the state of the computing function? What is the state of the contract? They're actually very, very similar concepts in certain ways. And then once you have state, people have been able to use that state for certain things, such as tokenization, signatures, things that are inherently built into blockchains. But the thing that has been missing, and the thing that we've kind of been working on, and I think me and Mark are both very excited to come into existence in a useful collaborative combined format, is the ability for credible reports, credible information, credible data to find its way into triggering state. And then you get not only state, but you get state that has a very valuable relationship with the outside world, which when you look at the contracts that power ad networks, power global trade, power the financial system, all of those contracts relate to outside activities. They relate to people clicking something. They relate to goods being shipped. They relate to market prices. And these are all things people need to know. And I think that the collaboration between us and Mark and us and Agoric and us and systems that are able to successfully bring these two capabilities into a usable, adaptable format is something that's very powerful, because it opens up a new world of possibilities for what people can build in our industry. And I personally think that our industry will actually be redefined by this, right? Whereas our industry now is about, let's make tokens, let's vote on things in relation to our private key or a token acting as a private key to vote. And let's do multi-sig, right? Like those are the three categories of things blockchains are really used for today, predominantly. I think this new capability, this combination of credible data with highly reliable state changes put into a usable format for developers will generate a big shift in what people build, right? And I think you're starting to see this with DeFi, which is a lot of what this hackathon is about. You're starting to see people build applications that are not just about make a token, make a DAO, sign something with a multi-sig, but they're about using the capabilities of blockchains and using the capabilities of credible data from oracles to generate value beyond the creation of a token and into the realm of, we have a contractual relationship. That contractual relationship might hold a token for us, but it's really the contractual relationship that blockchains and smart contracts are now able to embody and make uniquely capable and useful for people.
Yeah, and there's a further credibility issue that I think has been neglected by the blockchain space in general, and in fact that I think that the existing DeFi that's been happening so far has been neglecting quite terribly, which is the credibility of what the code means. Code understanding is understood to be hard. Contracts need to be understood in an adversarial context. The contract is drafted by one party. One party might have an interest in having the counterparty misunderstand what the contract is. Contracts and code have tremendously less ambiguity in many important ways compared to natural language contracts adjudicated by lawyers and courts. But it's still the case that code is very, very hard often to understand how reliable it is. So one of the things about our architecture, which you'll all be experiencing in the hackathon, is it's an architecture for partitioning risk, so that different aspects of the risk are at risk to different pieces of code. So in particular, Dean mentioned in his first talk, Zoe providing offer safety. Offer safety means that there's this first element of risk of any contract of the quid pro quo, is I'm offering this in exchange for wanting that in exchange. And then Zoe provides a fixed amount of code that guarantees offer safety is satisfied independent of how the contract might misbehave. And then our contracts are organized into highly reusable vetted components that can be composed with other components such that most of the residual risk, the risk that remains after offer safety is taken care of, can be moved into highly reusable components, contract components. So the key thing there is that we're always going to be writing new contracts, we're always going to be creating new code, but to the degree to which we can not just be reusing highly vetted, understood components, but doing it in architectures that can be moving most of the risk of concern into those components, so that the compositional code that is newer and less vetted is also the one that has less residual risk. We raise the credibility of the system as a whole with regard to the risk that you're agreeing to a contract that you misunderstood.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, and I think that's a great point, and I think we're starting to see this happening in DeFi, and systems that can make that happen even more are going to be very powerful, because you actually see two very important dynamics in the contract world. What you see is people copying agreements. You see, like, the second any bank or somebody makes a new derivative or a new financial product or something, if it's very contract based, the other banks just copy them. Law firms really shift around a lot of different templates of contracts that are all kind of the same thing, and they just have, and you almost get a inherent industry standard template because people don't want to reinvent. There's entire category of people that all they do is they make up these contracts, but then they don't even edit them as lawyers, right? They just make the contract. And then other people copy that, and that brings a new type of agreement or a new type of thing into existence. So I think the first really powerful thing is that these little pieces of automation that are hyper secure are open source, and they're going to have a lot of eyes on them. And so in the implementations that we've built with insurance companies, banks, and a number of other people, we've always opted for this separation of concerns in a service-oriented architecture, where we wanted to make each contract its own little service, on-chain service, that interacted in limited ways with the other services, right? And this separated your concerns about each individual piece. And then even back then, we would, and even sometimes now when we talk to people, I still feel very strongly that what you're going to have on an industry by industry basis is like, just like you have the ERC-20 standard for tokenization, you're going to have a standard that's going to emerge for doing bond payment calculation, for doing insurance payouts, for doing evaluation of certain types of events or certain pieces of financial transactions. And I think that what DeFi and the DeFi protocols out there right now are actually doing is they're starting down this path. And some of them are farther and some of them are at the beginning or in the middle, but they're just like you have the ERC-20 standard, because it's open source and because everybody can get around it and become comfortable with its security and reliability, and it's completely fine to copy it, it's completely open source, you're going to see a lot of smart contracts that become the way that a certain financial product, not how it works in whole, but how a portion of it works. And then if you want to make a slightly different financial product, you can take the 3 parts from the first one, add 2 more parts, and get the benefit of the security and all the thought that people put into something like a bond payment calculation service, right? And so that's a very powerful, very, very powerful dynamic. And I think the environment that has all of those building blocks and all of those building blocks in a secure, reviewed, and very composable way has another advantage, right? It has the advantage of people having an environment where they can once again compose those building blocks. And then the other huge kind of thing that, I hope we can enable is that of those services, a lot of them will be on-chain data, a lot of them will be randomness, a lot of them will be resources from oracles that aren't about some kind of code that can do something on its own without an input. So I think the combination of these building blocks mimics what you see in the web world as far as libraries and APIs. Really, it mimics as far as what you see as far as libraries. And I think what oracles do is they mimic what you see with APIs. And just like in the web world, libraries and APIs being combined in very productive ways, I think that's the stage of our industry's evolution that we're now embarking on.
So just to jump in quickly, there's been a discussion coming up in chat around how much computation should live on chain and how much should live off, and how do you guys view that? And open to either one of you taking it first, obviously.
I'll take that. One of the things that was very puzzling to me when I first saw blockchain is I've been thinking, working on smart contracts, as have many of the people at Agoric, for decades before the invention of blockchain. So all of our contracts were thought of as things that were not on-chain. The great invention of blockchain, as I mentioned, is that it's a credible computer, but in particular, a public permissionless blockchain is a computer, a place to run credible code that is immediately credible to everyone in the world and able to be open entry without prior arrangement. So for contracts which are like public institutions that need to be open entry to anyone in the world, public blockchains are absolutely the central place that those things should be put. Many, many contracts are much more local than that. Many contracts are things that are individually negotiated between a small set of parties that run for a while and shut down, and for which those parties might be more interested in not revealing the state of those contracts to the world at large than they are in the credibility necessary to have arbitrary other parties play in the contract when they're not interested in inviting everybody else in the world to play in those contracts anyway. So I think most contracts are small and local. Some contracts are very importantly need the worldwide credibility. So I think we're going to get a tremendous mixture. So so it's very important that our technology work both across public blockchains, private blockchains, non-blockchains, and that it operate in a distributed manner so that contracts running on any one of those platforms can talk to contracts running on any of those other platforms. I like to make the comparison again with the web. The web is primarily a public phenomenon. Most websites, when we think of the web, are the public websites that everyone can get at from anywhere in the world. But it's also very important that companies have their own internal private websites behind the firewall. And what's especially important is the seamless integration, that somebody behind a firewall within a company clicking on a link on an internal web page can follow that link into a document on a public web page with no friction at all. I think the same kind of mixture of public and private and proprietary and all of these arrangements will happen as well. We need a seamless, frictionless distributed computing system so these things can interact across all of these boundaries.
I mean, yeah, as I understand the question, it was around, and I think that all adds up, and it makes sense, and that frictionless kind of experience with reliability and security built in is going to be the real innovation of our industry, right? And I think the frictionless nature of it simply hasn't appeared yet, but there's a lot of smart people working towards that end, you know, us included, right? And that's really what, once you reach that point, then it's an obvious thing, right? But before that point, it's not. But it to us, it's quite obvious that once you have security and reliability and it becomes frictionless, obviously everyone prefers that. In terms of the question of what amount of computation lives where in these various environments, public or private or oracles versus layer ones and all this type of stuff, I think what you really need is a system that allows various use cases to have flexibility. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to make a rigid system that forces people to do things in ways that they don't necessarily want to. So if you have a system that provides certain guarantees efficiently, that's a very good starting point, right? So if you have certain state changes at certain scale, at certain levels of usability, and then I think the question from there kind of becomes, what amount of privacy or scalability or additional computation do people want to do in layer ones against their efficiency dynamics? And what amount do they want to do against an environment that's separate and different that perhaps provides privacy, or perhaps is able to do a computation around data in ways that you can only do if the data remains private, because there's a lot of data out there that has to remain private, but we still want it to be usable by a smart contract. So I think what this comes down to is an evolving world where there are certain things blockchains are very good at, and there are certain things oracles are very good at. And then both of those worlds become more and more flexible, and I think they should become more flexible. And then developers make a choice based on their privacy requirements, efficiency requirements, how much data they want to put into a chain, all these types of things. And in that world, if chains become hyper efficient and super private, right, then you probably have a lot of computation going in there. And in environments where chains become not hyper efficient, but they just become efficient, and they don't reach the same levels of privacy, or they can't reach that for some reason because you're inherently putting data into a layer one environment, even though it's encrypted or something, right? But there's all kinds of really clever tricks with cryptography. That's like part of what it's about. You arrive at a place then where you probably have layer ones doing certain mission critical computations that you want transparency for, but for which, you know, maybe there are still some efficiency concerns at global scale, and maybe there's some privacy concerns. And then you can get privacy from oracles with zero knowledge proofs, or you can get some additional scalability boosts by putting a portion of the computation in an oracle that you didn't want to put into a layer one. But really, I'm comfortable with either direction. It just depends on the degree to which layer one systems can solve those privacy and scalability concerns. And I think they will solve it to a certain degree. But then there's another question of what is the global requirement for that, right? Like what is the global requirement for a global derivatives blockchain that, you know, settles trillions of dollars at millisecond or second speeds, right? Like how does that look? And so I think there's still some chapters to be written here, but for the next few years, I think there's going to be a very positive collaborative overlap where oracles can enable a lot of functionality that blockchains don't have yet in terms of scalability or privacy. And what that'll actually let people do is that'll let people build much more important use cases on blockchains using the transparency and secure state change capabilities they do have. And at the end of the day, everybody benefits because more wonderful use cases go live until blockchains are able to do that privacy or scalability in a certain way. So I think privacy is probably the place where people will find some decisions to be made about what they want to put on chain versus what they want composed into a smaller subset of oracles.
Great. Well, thank you guys. And so I know we're at time. I mean, I have one quick question that I'd love to slip in, if possible, and maybe to Sergey, if you don't mind. Given that you at Chainlink, you've dealt with a bunch of enterprises, organizations outside of our space, would love to know what you think is going to be required to take blockchain and take our space mainstream, and what do they see or what are they looking for as you talk to them?
I think it's I think there's actually kind of two paths. One path is the slower path where our ecosystem slowly grows with the value proposition it has. And I think the usability of the smart contract system you use is going to be very important for that. I think the ability to get security from it, I think all these composable pieces being put together on it. And I think we're going to have better and better products built for our own ecosystem. And our own ecosystem is sufficiently large that people doing that can be successful, that they can have a successful enterprise, they can get financing, they can be considered successful in the technology landscape. And that actually creates a virtuous cycle of more people doing it, more products for the crypto community, the crypto landscape having more value to more users. And that kind of just keeps that cycle going because success kind of breeds more success in that sense. I think the second larger possible win is that if people see the issues with existing systems through something like a global financial crisis of some kind, which, you know, those happen on an 8 to 12 year cycle, and we're at 12 years. So it's very possible that there's some kind of financial issue that blockchains uniquely solve. And once that financial kind of markets issue becomes clearer to people, I think there will be a wholesale move towards blockchains and decentralized systems and guaranteed smart contract based systems. I think in that world, people are going to look at platforms, you know, like Agoric and platforms that they can easily interact with using their existing models. And that's going to be important for them to adopt this technology. And they're at the same time going to look at how can I acquire valuable, useful data, and how can I connect the platform that I'm developing a smart contract on, both to my existing enterprise backend and into various data, right? So I think what will happen to your earlier question is everybody's going to build in different kind of ways. I think that there's going to be a number of people that build in more privacy focused ways, and there's going to be people that build in more public blockchain. Let's put a lot more logic on the blockchain, even if it's more costly for whatever reason. At least that's the dynamic I see now. But once again, it's a difficult dynamic to predict because the scalability gains are just coming into existence. The privacy preservation capabilities are just coming into existence. And I think the blockchain space at this point is just about ready for a big influx of demand for enterprises and Web 2.0 companies, because they can finally build in a way where they acquire a dynamic with code that they're used to. They acquire a way to build things either using existing languages or existing design patterns, and they're also able to connect their existing system through something like an Oracle or a Chainlink to command contracts, and also able to get data into those contracts, right? And so it's actually quite fascinating, because in my opinion, the slow case means we are winning slowly, which is great because the ecosystem's big enough. And the large case where people suddenly have demand for these guarantees on an enterprise level because the global financial system and the sensitivity that creates for users leads to that demand for them for this technology, will evolve into all of these kind of new building blocks, right? And what percentage of those building blocks get these standards is actually quite a fascinating question. But I think that's where we are in the next year or 2 years, is that both the crypto landscape grows and makes a lot of great building blocks, and the enterprise world, in my opinion, at some point soon, we'll probably rapidly see the value in this, because their users will ask them, how can you guarantee to me that my relationship with you is in a certain state, rather than just saying it is.
Great. Well, again, we're 6 minutes over. I'd love to keep this conversation running for another hour or so, but I want to be respectful of both your time. I really appreciate both of you joining. To those of you who have joined for this talk and are still potentially interested in joining the hackathon, please go to hacktheorb.com and join us. We've got Chainlink folks helping, Agoric folks helping, and we'll get you set up on your systems. Again, Sergey and Mark, it's been a real pleasure, and we're excited to keep the conversation going, and maybe we can start this back up again at some point in the future.
Yeah, my pleasure. Always great to see you, and excited that we're doing the hackathon together. Great to see you again, Mark. Rowland, thank you very much. Have a great hackathon, everyone.
Thanks, Olivia.
Yes.
All right. So we did run a bit over, but that's okay, because the next presentation is just mine anyway, and I can just speak a little bit more quickly. We're going to take a 2-minute break, and then we'll be back with team formation and prizes and goals, so you can understand a little bit more about how we're thinking about prizes and how you should structure your hackathon projects. Thanks a bunch. All right, everybody, welcome back. Quick break right there. And as I mentioned at the end of our Fireside chat, I'm going to be going through prizes and some details on the competition, or the hackathon rather. So we'll go through that, and then at the end of this, I've got a quick team formation exercise for everybody, and with the goal of allowing you all to mingle, sort of get to know each other, introduce each other to yourselves, and with the idea that you should hopefully get a team formed over the course of the weekend. That's what we're hoping for here. So let me take you through a few slides to talk about our hackathon prizes. So to start with here, we have the we've broken our prizes into several categories. So a couple things to note is that, like with many hackathons in the space, you are potentially eligible for multiple prizes. You should let us know on your submission which ones you're going for. All projects will be entered into the Luminary award for Developer's Choice. So anything that gets submitted will get voted on by all of you. But I'll take you through the prizes from left to right here. So the first is the Ignite prize, that's our grand prize for the hackathon, and that is going to be awarded to the best DeFi dApp. It must include a Chainlink Oracle, but it doesn't necessarily need to be something new. It can be an implementation of a popular app in Ethereum. It can be something that you have thought about. You could adjust one of our existing DeFi components that will help you walk through later this week. The next, and again, we have a grand prize and a second place for Ignite. The next one over is the Revelation prize. And really the goal here with Revelation is that the Agoric system operates a little bit differently. We have different frameworks, we have a different security model and an access model that we use. And we want to see what kinds of things that you can actually do with that are new. So the goal is, as you're getting into the Agoric platform, as you're starting to play around with our concepts, what creative thing can you build that potentially we haven't seen before? And that does require a Chainlink Oracle as well. Next is the Velocity prize. So Velocity is really about enhancing our Chainlink integration. So in some of the earlier talks, we pointed out areas where our Chainlink integration could use help, could use additional logic, for example, that is built into standard Ethereum contracts. That's something where you'll likely want to connect with our developers. We've got everyone is available on Discord, and you should please just reach out to me, reach out to the team in general, and we can help guide you. But a bunch of areas where our Chainlink integration could use help, and we've got a special award for that. Next is the Refract award, and that is for best user experience. So you may have seen earlier, Kate had dropped something in our YouTube comments where if you want to build a UI on top of our loan contract, for example, that would obviously qualify you for Refract. We're looking to see what you guys can do in terms of building slick user experiences on top of the Agoric platform. And then finally is Luminary, which I mentioned before. Anyone that submits a project will have the ability to vote on the other projects, and the winner there gets $1,000. So Dean mentioned this earlier on, but some of the prize will be paid out in Link tokens. Some of the prize will be paid out in US dollars. So we'll follow up with additional details on that as we move forward through the hackathon. All right. So really, just in general, I went through the different categories that we have. I want to talk about what it is we're really looking for at the end of the day, and that's really just creativity. Can you build a component and explain to us why you think that it will be meaningful? And aside from making sure that you have oracles in the categories that require them, we're not necessarily going to hold you to specifics. We really just want to see what you can do. And so build something that you think is going to be useful, that is creative, that utilizes the Agoric platform. And please reach out to us for help, because we've got plenty of ideas for how you can potentially execute that, depending on what you want to do. But really what I want to stress here is, if you have a specific project that you're really keen to work on, don't let the prize categories deter you from doing that. We'd much rather have you build something that you really want to build, and we can figure out how to make sure that you qualify for some set of the prizes. And the longer term goal really here is community. So forgive the bad joke here, but we really are looking to build a long-term developer community. And as Dean mentioned earlier in the day, some of you may not have been around for that talk, we are launching our mainnet next year. And so that means we want to start building the community now. We want developers that really understand what it is we're trying to do and see the value there, to build with us, to help us understand how to communicate it better, to provide input, to start building components. It is obviously all open source. So please join us. Please dive into what we're building, argue with us about security, and just get involved on Discord, over email, however you prefer. Because really what we're looking to do is as we approach mainnet, we will be doing more formal community building things, and obviously the participants in this hackathon and our next early events are going to be the first people we reach out to, because we really do want those people that have been with us since the beginning here. Okay, so just some quick logistics. The submission deadline for your projects is Saturday, November 21st at 11 a.m. Pacific. Your project code needs to be on GitHub, and the presentation or the submission itself should be a video, a recorded video, or a slide deck walkthrough. We want to see your code. We want to understand what you've built. We want to understand the use case and why you think it's useful. Not listed on here, but important to note is you don't actually have to be live on testnet to submit. If you're using a sim chain, that is sufficient. If you've connected to testnet, and there will be some, we'll have some guidance later this week, or excuse me, next week, on how to do that. But if you have managed to do that, that's just bonus points. But we have some additional guidelines, code of conduct, that sort of stuff. Check it out on the Hack the Orb site if you want some more details, or reach out in Discord. And there will be 2 check-ins. So the first check-in is this coming Monday, and that's really just to make sure that it's been a couple days. Maybe you've had an opportunity to talk to some other team members. We want to see what teams have formed, who's sure about what they're building, and then more importantly, who is still looking for a project or looking for a team, so that we can reach out, help you connect with people, try to make sure that you're engaged and that you've got a project that you're excited about moving forward. So that's what the check-in is on Monday. And then on Friday, we really are hoping that anyone that is planning to submit a project for judging will be able to check in on Friday and be clear about what that project is and what we should expect. And that's largely just so we can make sure that we organize our judging appropriately and all of that stuff. So those check-ins will just take the form of a survey through Discord or email, and that will come out on Monday. All right, so team time. So just rolling straight into it here, and we've mentioned it a bunch of times during the day, but please join our Discord, introduce yourself. We have a team formation channel for that. We also have an ideation channel if you want to start pitching projects. Obviously, don't feel limited to that. You can pitch projects in team formation and vice versa. You should have an invite in your email. If you don't, and you feel like typing in the invite that I've created below here, you can go ahead and do that. But do make sure to join our Discord, because not just for team formation, but that's where we're going to be allowing you to access support, both for Agoric and for Chainlink. Both Patrick and Keenan will be on the support channel throughout the hackathon. And that's where we'll be making announcements and doing a lot of coordination. So we want to make sure that you guys do get in there. And apologies in advance for telling you to join our Discord 5 or 6 more times over the next couple of days. Okay, so I am going to actually drop out of this presentation, and I am going to send this link. I've already sent it earlier this morning, but it's probably buried at this point. I'll send this link in our team formation channel in Discord. We've got a spatial chat system for you guys to hop into, and I don't know how else to describe it other than it'll let you sort of physically move around, have quick video chats. We know that everything being remote can be a little bit challenging to meet people, and hopefully this is a little bit more freeform. So what I am going to do is stop this presentation, drop this link in our Discord, make sure that you guys are able to access it. This will be open for at least the next 2 hours. So please do join. All right. So with that, again, really happy that so many of you were able to come and listen to our presentations today. So many of you have signed up for the hackathon. We're really excited for this. And for the last time, at least today, I'm Rowland, and I'm the PM at Agoric. Please reach out to me in Discord if you need any additional support, connect you with a team, help you set up a team, connect you with our hack partners, and connect you with the Agoric engineers if necessary. So great. Well, we will see you all tomorrow. And with that, I'm going to drop into Discord.